Hi sailors! In this series, Sailing Team Tally-Ho takes you on a first-person view of an actual interaction with the racing rules of sailing. Our objective is to not give definitive adjudications, but to point out where some racing rules are likely involved. In nearly all cases, there are additional rules that could have been in play, but we felt were of lesser relevance to the situation. And you may not agree with that assessment, and we don't claim to be judging experts. We are merely showing a situation that had occurred in the best way possible, usually with a 360 camera, as a placeholder for thought and discussion. But we do invite the viewer to express their opinions in the comments in terms of whether they agree in the inclusion and interpretation of those rules, and whether any rules were violated, or whether we left something important out that we should have considered. We also invite questions. If you don't understand something of why we are using a particular rule, if we can't answer the question, we'll do our best to get an answer. Like in all sports, we believe that these rules are present to keep the sport as fair as possible. Also, when understood well across a racing fleet, it tends to reduce unsportsmanlike behavior and accidents. A rule that we do follow ourselves is that all of these scenarios actually occurred. There is no generative AI used. We do use some diagrams to depict the scenario where it's useful, but they are eyeball approximations. The software for this scenario that we used is by the name of Boats on SourceForge.net, which was produced by an internationally recognized sailing judge, Thibaut Gradel. The rulebook we use is the U.S. Sailing Racing Rules of Sailing for 2021 to 2024. We will update our videos as new versions of the rules are published as best as possible if they are affecting these scenarios. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get started with this interesting one, which was actually a request. Okay, here's the scenario. There are 16 boats in this particular racing fleet, the Sonar class. There are other boats around us that we are not racing against that happen to be in races of their own classes that you will see in the background. Usually there's a mutual understanding to not interact with them from a racing standpoint, but sometimes this cannot be avoided since at Wayzata Yacht Club, a popular race can have well over 100 boats in it. The winds are light, around 5 to 6 knots. This means that we are all going roughly 3 to 4 knots, which is about 3 seconds per boat length. So really this is a slow-mo scenario, which is a good way to dissect it by rules. The scenario starts as 3 boats enter the zone around the windward mark as shown. Tally-Ho has just tacked purposely outside of the 3 boat length zone and is coming in from the right. Both the red and the white sonar have experienced a wind shift and have arrived at the port ley line too early. This forces them to have a tack within the 3 boat length zone in order to minimize their sailing distance. At the beginning of this scenario, the red boat is right at the mark and needs to take a tack and sharp turn around the windward mark. The other white sonar is a little farther behind and is on port tack. Here are the rules involved as we see them. Both with the red boat and the white boat, Rule 18.3 is potentially engaged, which is a rule that states that a boat going head to wind within a 3 boat length zone cannot make another boat that is sailed straight into the zone need to go above their close hauled course. In other words, they can't stall them out. Having cut the weather mark closely, the red boat is mostly at risk of violating this rule, but it's just far enough ahead so that it does not foul Tally-Ho. The next interaction is with the white sonar, which is behind the red sonar and is also close to the weather mark. The rule involved here is Rule 10, which essentially states that a boat on the starboard tack has a right-of-way over the boat on the port tack. The white sonar is on the port tack. Tally-Ho has right-of-way here, and the white sonar recognizes this. While the white sonar is also tacking within the 3 boat length zone, Rule 18.3 isn't really relevant to their turn around the mark because there are no other boats around that they can foul. They are free to turn as they did. The rule doesn't say that you can't tack within the 3 boat length zone. It merely states that you can't foul another boat when you do so. The next rule involved is Rule 11 with tally-ho and the red sonar. This rule essentially states that for overlapping boats on the same tack, the windward boat needs to stay clear. This is tally-ho in this case, and we indeed stayed clear. We actually gave the red sonar plenty of room to make it tactically unattractive for them to steer us up windward off course. The question has come up whether the red sonar could take tally-ho to windward off their course. Are there any rules that would prevent them from doing that? What do you think? The last possible relevant rule that we see is Rule 18.2, which becomes engaged when there is an overlap between boats coming to a mark, the offset mark in this case, and that the inside boat has rights to round the mark closely if there is an overlap at the 3 boat length zone to the windward mark. As you can see from the video, we see that there's no overlap at this point per the video. Also, the rule, even if there was an overlap, would not really be relevant because Rule 11, the windward boat shall stay clear, would still be in effect, and tally-ho would still have to give inside room for the mark to the red sonar anyways. As it turns out, however, we were ahead of the red sonar as the video depicts, and we were able to sail our proper course around the offset mark. Aside from the rules, however, you'll see that tally-ho had better momentum going into the windward mark because we did not make a sharp turn, which paid off in the light air in particular. So what do you think? Here's the scenario played real time. Did any boats foul or violate a rule against another? Are there any other rules that we didn't mention that could be significant here? Could the white boat have tacked quickly and gotten ahead at the mark, or was there not enough room? What do you think? Could the red boat have taken tally-ho to windward off their course? And would that have been a tactically good idea? The key here is to be able to know what potential rules are involved when you enter a situation and quickly assess what the risks, both tactical and safety, are. Often the speeds are much higher and therefore the reaction time needs to be much quicker. This is a Rule 11 right here. I gotta give him room here. Can you release the green, Trevor? Nice, good job, Tom. Nice job, nice job. And you could go to the lower bay this time. Oh. Please leave your comments. We'd love to hear from you. For more of these, please sure to punch the like, subscribe, and the notification button, and you'll get all of them. Until then, fair winds and dry bilges.